No, I haven't.
Okay.
Found that in the agenda. All right, sorry, guys, we're gonna call this meeting to order. This is a meeting of this Capital Improvement Program Committee on January 27th, 2023 at 12:30 p.m. I think we have quorum. I think we're missing Donna
And Jen.
and so we definitely have enough people here. The first item on the agenda is present to speak, and I don't know if there's one person here. I see Nick Tella has his hand raised.
Hi, Nick Tella, 49 Myrtle. Just a few things here. The meeting online, as far as on the town website, if you go to the calendar, this meeting is not listed. The only way one would know is if they went to the CIP tab, P tab to find it. So in the future, I don't know if somebody can make that correction. So it's notated. Also a request that the mic is not turned off from the host side before the meeting, because any sidebar conversations that one would be able to hear in person if they showed up should be able to be heard online also. I hear many things about, projects with the schools and how CIP hasn't identified all the things that need to be addressed. With that being said, will the committee take this up and identify everything that does need to be addressed with Center and Hall? Thank you.
Good point. Anyone else? Okay. I think we can move on to approval of minutes. And Kelsey did send out the minutes for the 13th. Is that right? Did you know?
I did a search for it, did not find, maybe I just missed it. I didn't find it. So
maybe she's always.
She sent out an agenda.
She sent out the agenda.
website.
She sent out the agenda, yeah.
I got the minutes for January 13th.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I think she did send it.
But that could have been, I don't remember if that was just because I get all the minutes from everything or if that was from her directly. Let me check.
Do you know what date that was that was sent out?
No, I'm looking in my emails to see.
I'm sorry.
I'm just asking her now what we're waiting on and what we have ready. But if everybody has that doesn't remember seeing them, I'm not supposed to ready to approve them.
No. All right, well,
I think it said, yeah, January 13th, but I think it was from, I think I got it because of, where did I get it from? Oh, because I get the Capital Improvement Committee meeting minutes, like automatically, like from the town, like the e-blasts. That's where I got it.
I don't think I'm signed up for that.
Yes, and I get all of them for such entities for granted what I have.
I know, and I got them from Kelsey directly too, so I'm like, I knew that they were there.
Yeah, so the 10th and the 13th are what's online and ready to prove if we haven't already approved the 10th.
Yeah, we
And we
did.
already did the 10th.
I feel like we did
already,
the
on the
10th.
13th, we did the 10th. So the 13th,
Yeah,
so we need 13, 18,
because she sent that one all to all the committee.
20, and 25. They're coming fast and furious, of course.
Well, let's just wait then. If everybody hasn't seen them, then we can't do it, but.
I'll have a minutes update for you on Monday,
Yeah.
Wednesday.
But
Sorry.
this is the problem with having meetings every other day.
Yeah.
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 There's good things about it though. Our short-term memories are.
Can I make a note?
Kicking in.
We haven't approached Kelsey about what to do moving forward if her tenure with the town ends before our work is completed, if she would be willing to still do our minutes. So I'll talk with her about that. So we'll know what's said. She'll certainly do the ones. She will have been here before, but if we're not done before February 17th, I'll discuss with her whether or not she's willing to still do them
Okay,
separate from us. Otherwise, we'll need to address that.
that would be generous of her if she could.
Geez, amazing.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but, you know,
Yeah. So,
Hmm.
what did I see, 113, 18? Yeah, so she
Okay.
said she sent us the 13th, that's the only one that's ready, but again, if most folks don't remember seeing it.
it's the same thing we're looking at.
Yeah,
20.
yeah, okay, so it's up there. So yeah, so where we last left off on Wednesday is that we were just looking at year one and trying to put some numbers to some of these things. What we were waiting for was for Donna to let us know how much is available in all the different special funds. I had sent her an email and I just heard back from her that it went to her wrong email address. When it auto-populated with the old .gov.
Oh, no.
.org.
So that was, yeah, that .org.
Okay,
So that's my mistake. I didn't even think of it when I was sending it, so. So she hasn't done that work yet. But, I think we can make some guesstimates on some of these things. So this is going to the top.
Could I just ask something I don't see? So are Karen Ann and Jen missing today?
no,
Yeah,
Karen Ann's on there.
Oh, she is?
No, Karen Ann is KAC. That's my
Oh, sorry, I
registration at school.
just couldn't see who all was here. Thanks.
And
Sorry. I
Jen
just
Jen
wanted-
is missing. She,
Okay.
yeah, she's on vacation. So,
The numbers that I gave you for a school building project, again, those were on the estimated number, so those are the numbers that are in here now.
mhm. Well, the first year is the 200 that we talked about putting in there. The second year is just a proxy number. I don't know. I don't know that I've seen what that's.
So I sent you a table that then you shared with the rest of the committee.
Oh, yeah.
So those would be, that came from the financial information that we've been looking at from the financial advisor based on 3 notes and a bond. And the timing would be adjusted based on the project. So we can do final numbers, but what I gave you to plug in for now were based on the project 1, right? So regardless, the first year will be the same for every project because it's the minimal amount of bonding necessary based on the cost figures. So it's
Okay.
based on cash flow and every project has the same first year beginning. So that $200,000 is what's anticipated.
Right.
And I think we talked about there being some contingency in there and I kind of broke down those figures for you. It was like 188 and some change.
So,
And then,
so that number should be 388?
no.
Oh,
No,
So do you have that
Sorry.
table that I?
well,
it means that it's 180 something and
Yeah,
then,
so
and
it
then
was-
the contingency
it was
is
a
a
30
20,000.
It's $35,000 to $45,000 for issuance fee, and then you pay the interest. So, we use 45,000, so the higher of the 2 amounts to plan for.
Mhm.
And then the amount of the interest, and again, the bond, based on the amount of bond we're taking out. And then, in that first year, we put in a contingency fee, anticipating if there were any costs when we actually did this, because those were, they're not final numbers, but they're pretty good numbers based on,
mhm.
they're definitely based on the cash flow of the project. So our financial advisor worked with the owner's project manager, taking the cash flow for the project and the amount of bonding that we would need in each year. And so what is not wrapped up into the total project amount is the issuance and the cost of the bond. So that's the interest that you pay on the note. And that's the bond anticipation note. So that interest plus the issuance fee plus a small contingency gives us the 200,000 in year 1. Every project will be that same amount.
Mhm.
And I don't have, I apologize, I don't have that document
Okay,
into you, and it's not as much in year 2, and then it does get significant, and then the year that the bond begins, you see the issuance fee and the bond payment So I think I was able to lay out all 5 years for you.
Mhm.
But do
Okay.
they differ from these figure placeholders
Yes.
that are in here? Okay,
Yeah,
so
they're very
what,
different.
do you remember what year 2 was?
Well, but if you could give me one, I'll go back.
Yeah, I'd have to stop sharing to go.
Yeah, I'll go, no, because then everyone will see what you're
Figure it
doing.
out.
Yeah, give me 1 minute and I'll go grab this.
And then that shouldn't be bond anticipation note as the funding source then. In year 1.
Okay,
Well, I don't know.
yeah,
I don't know. Is it,
like 9, 10, what do you
is it,
mean?
yeah, is it just a local funds number?
Good thing to ask.
Yeah, I did make a special category at the bottom, for the bond anticipation note stuff, but like that's gonna, what she's bringing us, I think, has the detail we need to even plug those numbers in.
Right. So does that mean Donna's not gonna be able to join us?
Yeah, she's not,
Okay.
yeah,
Hmm.
and to make sure that my formulas are correct.
Let me make sure they got it first up.
930.
Okay.
Okay. Okay,
So year 2,
it was so year 1 is 188, but with contingency,
Right.
200. And this is, so should this be bond anticipation note as the funding source for that? Yes. Or is it more like local funds that?
so I think that's a Donna question, because we've been using bond anticipation note, but those are real dollars we need. So where we get those real dollars from, like, that's not a source, in my opinion.
Right.
So,
How much needs to cover that? I mean, how much do we need?
we need that whole amount.
The
The
200,000,
200,000, right? So, but we've been using as an off the book source, right? BAN for bond anticipation note. But where are we gonna get those funds from? What fund are we gonna pull them from? And I think
and then
that's a Donna question.
Yeah, and my thinking is that it's just local
Reserve.
funds
Yeah,
Oh,
or reserve.
or is it one of those two? It's
what's in local funds?
Well, that would have to come out of the selectmen's budget,
Right.
basically, in
Okay,
the operating budget.
so that with that bottom line we're working towards, that would include it. And then year 2 is 498,611 plus the $45,000 issuance. And I think that gives you about 584 and some change. And again, after Wednesday, if it's a different project, we'll change that, but
what's year 3?
1,309,542. And year 4 is the first year in this scenario. It's the first year of the bond, so it's big, it jumps. It's 3,184,600. And that's the bond plus the issuance fee of the bond, which goes up to $85,000. And then
Okay.
year 5 is just, just a bond payment, and
Mhm.
that's $3,027,850.
Whoops.
So year 4,
missing a zero.
what was, the total was like about 3.185 million?
Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
thanks. Okay.
Okay,
And so I'm just scanning through the scenarios we asked, and right up to the most expensive, which is the hall school renovation with an auditorium. Years 1 and 2 remain the same, and year 3 is pretty close. So the first 3 years, you're not gonna see much change in
Between
project,
projects,
Yes.
yeah.
because you're at the same point in all of them
Mhm.
from a cash flow perspective.
Okay.
But those are the dollars that are not included in the project costs. That is solely borne of the town, not of the bond.
But year two is that, you know, like about half of what we have in the plan here.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. A little more than half, but, okay,
All right.
all right.
So even, let's say whatever choice gets made, whatever choice goes to referendum, if it fails, and might be looking at just doing the upgrades to both schools, still probably, these first couple of year numbers are probably the same.
So I would think so, right? And so to that, I would think if the referendum fails, the SBC has to regroup and decide which way to go, understanding why the referendum failed. And then, you know, could they potentially look at if we did nothing and did all of these repairs in 1 year? I think we're looking at about a $20 million total project cost, I would think at minimum. And then at that, if we do that all at once, you're looking at close to the same amount of money, because now you're bonding $20 million. And keep in mind, those estimates already have the reimbursements baked into them. So it's not gonna go from there less the reimbursement. And then,
Well, it's not close, it's like half, right? It's like 35
Well-
million versus 20 million.
A lot of
But
it's
a
not
lot of-
reimbursable when you start doing all
Yes.
the repairs.
But you just said it was baked in.
it's the reimbursement number is already in there.
In the 20
So from
million,
what I heard from Phil, out of the, say, 10 or 20 projects he mentioned, there's only a couple of them
Right.
are eligible for any reimbursement. The rest, the town's on the hook for paying 100% of it.
Yeah,
So if you're doing that 20 million in repairs, the reimbursement is not even close to half. It's much, much less than that.
yeah,
Right,
that's what I
but our
understood.
bottom line out of pocket cost is 20 million is less than 35 million.
Yes, yes, right. So I think if you're using the 28 million, like, right, asking for the waiver and assuming a waiver is done, and of course, we wish we could say, yes, you're gonna get a waiver, no, you're not, but with the change in guard at OSCGR, that's, we just don't have that
Right.
ability now. But if we were able to get the waiver to get us to the full reimbursement, which would bring the least expensive project to 28 million, and this one we're somewhere around 20 million.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
There's
so
still a
35 is without the
significant,
waiver. I was
right.
wondering, why am I thinking
right,
28?
there's still a
Yeah.
significant cost to the townspeople that could still lead to a significant tax increase.
Right,
So there's a little bit of the do nothing isn't necessarily less expensive and less
right.
of a constraint to folks.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
there's no cheap way out of
No
this.
cheap way out.
Yeah.
That is correct.
And you also lose the efficiency costs that Phil talked about, that is operating costs in a new school would be
Right,
$400,000 to $500,000 less per
Right.
year.
So
right,
you
Now,
leave
if
half a million.
If you fix the
Yeah.
two schools, you're not saving that $500,000.
right.
Plus, plus you don't have a new school. You have what we have now.
Right, and that's
So, which isn't an issue that, I don't think this issue goes away as far as choosing this sort of more duct tape route.
yeah,
But I
and
mean,
we-
I wonder, we weren't all given a mailer with the increase to our taxes with just doing repairs to the two existing schools.
That is
Right.
correct, Carrie, because that is not within that's if nothing happens and the school moves forward with the new plan, right? The superintendent then comes forward and says, I'm gonna ask the town for X money to do X, right? The school building committee's or their charge was a combined K-8 school. And so that's their project, and that's the only information they put out. If that fails, we're trying to understand how our plan would look
And
without a school project and just maintaining our two schools and what that looks like.
And my question is, in that 20 million that we keep referring to, is there anything that's more aggressive than repairs?
No.
So there's nothing that sort of addresses some of the, educate, what do they call it,
No
the
ed
school
specs.
board, no ed specs in it.
Well, they're not new ed specs, right? So.
Right, they're for a project.
Yeah.
But I mean, as far as
No,
the way that things have changed post-pandemic or, you know,
There's no
whatever,
adjustment to
or-
learning
Or,
whatsoever.
or
This
just
is-
21st century learner stuff,
Has nothing
It's
to
not
do
in
with
there.
that. It's not in there. This
Okay.
is strictly
repairs.
repairs to the facility and doesn't necessarily include the total envelope of the building. It doesn't touch plumbing, it doesn't touch electrical, those things aren't included in there.
See, because I feel like the town and the superintendent have been focused on, you know, what to present to the public. If he's going back to a thought process that excludes any kind of building renovation, you know, solution, I would think he would up his game on, you know, what else to think about in the existing buildings.
So I'm sure
But
he
it-
is,
Yeah,
but right now they're working a specific set of
right,
goals.
and I get that.
And I have no doubt from, you know, conversations about our facilities that our superintendent absolutely, and he said that to us here, you're going to hear back from me. He
Right,
knows
right,
exactly
he
what
did
needs to
say
be
that.
done and what he's going to be asking for. It's just not been the charge he's working towards this
Got
committee.
it.
And if we learned anything from the state, it's if you're not gonna utilize our services for 20 years of a lifetime, we're not going to give you our money for repair. Right?
So
That was-
just to jump on with steps, I'm wondering too. I mean, obviously nothing can be done here, but a facilities manager, which I think if there's any takeaway from this round of CIP grants is that a facilities manager would be extremely useful. You know, I'm sure there's also the question of how do we make sure, should a new school be approved, that it's maintained in an appropriate way? So we're not sitting here 20 years from now doing the same sort of thing.
Melissa's had her hand up. I just noticed.
Hi.
that.
Yeah, so I wanted to piggyback on what Carrie said, that I definitely think that a town facilities manager for all town buildings is something that, you know, I think would be a good thing to add to this. Not, I don't know if it's CIP or if it's the town budget, or I think it's whether or not a new school is built or not. I also wanted to say that we've heard, even back when I was on the Board of Ed, when they did the fire study, that once you open up Hall School, you're opening up things you don't know what's back there. So there might be a lot more money to and costs once you get inside, you know, of the walls and stuff. So I don't know if that number that we have is very accurate, I guess. But I think it's going to be a lot more money because it's so old. And we've already had people, you know, companies come in and say they're not going to even touch those pipes or electrical or whatever it might be. You know, because of that.
So those are good points. In the prior study list that some of this information has been predicated on does not include opening walls. It has nothing to do with renovating a school to new at all. That is strictly just the repairs that they identified that would need to be done. And so, no, it doesn't touch any of that stuff. So I think some of that is off the table, but that's not to say we might not have issues with electrical or plumbing, but that's not, those weren't identified projects. So, you know, it is a much bigger question. As far as our plan, I think we'll know you know, in the early spring before this goes to referendum, whether or not a project passed at referendum or not. And our project, our plan can help guide funds for the next steps, whatever that may be on either side, because using these numbers, will at least have some funding placeholders there, whether it be individual school projects or the school moving forward at another potential referendum, or another potential referendum for a different project, you know,
To
what
what
if nothing passed?
To what degree does the SBC option for renovation in addition to hall factor in the unknown? The ripping into walls part of it, does it?
separate from a new school or the alteration extension? No, so SBC was charged with bringing forth a proposal for a new pre-K through 8. Now, that didn't mean a new school, new site, it meant one combined school, right? So, and there's nothing to say that the school building committee wraps up and stops working after one failed referendum. Some towns have gone to 3 referendums
Right.
to determine what's the right project. So they could continue to work if something doesn't pass in this first round. Boy, don't I wish we had a referendum say, last month. We weren't ready for it, but then we wouldn't have as many unknowns at this step in the process. But there's no plan from the SBC perspective on what to do moving forward without one of these 2 options going.
I understand that. I'm just wondering if, because, I mean, the renovation addition option is the most expensive of all. So my question is there any, because of that, I'm questioning, is there any factor in there about the age of the building and the unknown that
I'm
you
sorry, I
might
think
find when
that's
you start
There's
tearing down
escalations,
walls?
there's escalations for that, yes. There are financial factors based on that.
Is there something we could capture as a sort of percentage of the project that gives us an idea of what they're factoring in? Because
I can reach out.
that's
to
like
ask.
Collier, right? That's-
Yeah, I can reach out to ask what that is, but I don't
I just
know.
wonder if that would help us, but
Yeah, I mean,
maybe,
there is a contingency in there for that,
Yeah.
but again, that's based on a project that's going to completely redo that envelope.
okay,
And so
that's different.
it's different from.
Repair kind of
Yes,
unknowns.
Yes.
Okay,
because there is, and I think at last night's meeting, a resident asked about what if we just built to new both schools? And that was in the Friar study, and that was considerably more expensive than a new school based on those numbers and a renovate to new of either one option. And we would still be operating 2 schools. So that is another option, renovate them both to new. Don't know if the state will support that, right? There's
right.
the, but it was at that time in 2017 numbers. Ran them last night, it was about 7,000 total project cost more than a new school and $4,000 more to the town than a new school. And that was to renovate to news. But
And the state portion
those
of
are
that
rough numbers.
percentage wise is not as high as a new build? Or it's higher than a new?
It's higher, but not everything is
It's
covered.
covered, right? Okay,
And in the case of Hall School, we would still be penalized because the building as it sits today is over the square footage amount that the state says you should have.
right, right.
So they would
So
They
we
would hit you for penalties.
hit you.
there.
for-
Yeah.
Thank you for that crash course.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so for our purposes though, what we need to know, really know, is the first year number to put in for the budgeting. And then I think until, February 1st is when this SVC is supposed to meet to figure out which option. At that point, we can put some other numbers into this for the out years. And then we wait until referendum, and after the referendum, know what we should put in those out years. I think that's all we can
Yeah,
do.
right.
So
Do we conceivably reconvene after the referendum?
I think at that point it would,
I think we
Depend.
should.
I don't
And
know
if
how
it's
much
a- yeah.
time we'd have. So right
Yeah.
now, the SBC has recommended a date. It obviously has to go through the Board of Selectmen first. They're looking at the end of March, which is about a week before the budget hearing. So it would leave little to no time, but still enough time that we could get a meeting in if we needed to maybe have a discussion at the budget hearing and make a recommendation of an adjustment.
I was just
Because
thinking,
that's the opportunity for them to adjust the budget.
I
up or
was just
down.
thinking, and I know when Sue was chairing, we talked about this too. I was just thinking about reconvening for the out years, and that could be later than that even.
Well,
you
I
know.
would say no, because the annual town meeting is when this plan is approved at town meeting. So we would have to have it done prior to that, and the year one is in that plan, and that would be, those appropriations would be made right after the.
No, I'm saying
budget hearing.
keep your one,
It's a plan, this
Yeah.
plan goes
Right,
to town meeting.
right, okay,
So, which includes some real
Right.
dollars.
yeah,
so-
okay,
But that would be the third week in April.
Yes.
So there potentially, we could make some changes.
Yeah, I mean, if we planned a meeting, for the day after,
yeah,
or 2 days after, if needed, then we could have some recommendations going into, to the selectmen, going into the budget hearing,
Mhm.
and then say,
But
listen,
really, if that 200 is the same no matter what scenario, then for purposes of the operating budget, there's no change.
Right.
right, that's what
yeah.
I was thinking too.
Yeah,
All right,
so, okay, so that's that. What else? Yeah, well, so what you don't see on here at the top is I put the fire department plan B stuff at the bottom because I wasn't sure, like, we really should just put one course of action on here. What was presented to us was to put in some numbers to do additional bonding for both fire department projects. And it was, but we don't have any numbers for, like the 200,000 that we know for the school, we don't know what number, so I put 40,000 in as just to put something in there, but, that's totally a made-up number that, I have no idea.
So can I make a comment on that?
Mhm.
I don't see any way that we are ready to spend real dollars on a bond or bond anticipation note for either fire project.
Mhm.
Because that would have to go to a town meeting before we could do that.
Mhm.
And we don't have enough information because they don't have enough information to even recommend to the townspeople. Not saying it's not needed and we shouldn't plan for it
Mhm.
out, but I think it for sure has to come off of year one. I know they have heard repeated years of boards and commissions say, when there's a bond, you should get onto it. That's when you should get onto it. And I don't disagree with that, but the information timeline hasn't lined up. And so I'm not sure how we would go. They don't have any figures of what a real building would cost. They've come up with some cost estimates. Wellington, one with their addition, and maybe Chief Moore can expound on it, is a little bit farther ahead in the process. And so they had money in this current fiscal year that would give them some designs, and I would think a rough estimate. Wellington Hill is a little bit behind that, and I know they're trying to stay combined. I think maybe in year two, we might be ready to talk about that, if we give some money to Wellington Hill this year for the design portion, if that's what we want to commit to. But I just don't know how we put money for a bond.
Well, what you guys submitted though, was, this is option A to do the bond. And then plan B was Wellington Hill didn't ask for design and engineering until year 3. And I don't think you guys asked for any.
So we have if I may, we have the money to do the final stage of building plans and stuff now. And that's what it's at the architect to get the final number. And we're hoping to have that a couple of weeks, but we don't have what that final budget number is. So that we can go back and forth and say, we got to remove this or.
The estimates done in the past for that project were similar to what they did with the school of there, so many square feet is in the design and what's the going price per square foot to build something in New England. So that's very like region plan, but that's the best guesstimate at that time. But the Castle Blue study was 2009 and came up with a number. And then the architect's figure was 6, 7, 8 years ago.
So just about 6 years ago.
And so things have obviously changed price wise for that. So that's what needs updating, but it's not, this will cost exactly this to the penny. It's an estimate based on square footage and what type of construction is so much per square foot.
Mhm.
is that in here?
No,
Okay,
I don't think so.
I don't think
Was
so.
that, did did I just miss it when I put it, or was that not submitted?
No, I think what was some,
You mean there?
So their plan B, if they don't do, what if we can't do them on the bond this
They
year.
didn't have a plan.
I don't have a plan B, so in all
Okay.
honesty, my only option is plan A.
Okay.
Because-
But plan A is
Correct.
tied with Wellington Hill.
Right,
That's what was presented.
yeah.
So what's the number for plan A, A1?
What's your plan B? So if your plan B is this next year to
Yep.
start to ask for X amount of dollars and for a bond, then
So what we figure out.
you don't have that number yet, is what I just heard.
We don't, it's at the architects, we're waiting on it.
Two
Our
point nine was the last.
2.9 was the last estimate that we had got.
I mean, I'm not saying we should go off and separate them. I mean, I don't see the point of
We're
that.
trying our best to work together. We both know that there's
Yeah.
deficiencies in together.
And I think the only way to keep them together, in my mind, is to move up their timeline of their plan B had it 3 years from now. And I think that separates them right away. It doesn't get them in an efficient bond and put them together in one. And if we give them some, again, if that's the project that we want to move toward, 2 firehouses, then we need to give them some money, or they need to come up with that on their own to have the design work done and engineering to even get us close to some numbers to think about a bond and then keep them.
Yeah, I
the
don't
possibility
think,
of it being in year 2.
I don't think it's appropriate to, it doesn't feel like we're bond ready
No.
on the firehouse end at all. So I agree with you on that. But as far as like separating them and going on 2 parallel or not so parallel tracks or whatever, I don't think that that's the answer either.
No, but I think in year 1, Wellington Hill would have to have some funds to get them to the point they're at so that they could be together.
Mhm.
They're ahead
But
of
how
the
can
game.
we talk about that today?
I think we
I
have
think we
to.
have to.
It's part of
About
your
doing something in,
If we're gonna do
but
it.
I
in
mean
year
without
one.
them here.
Well, I mean, listen, we have to talk about it. In my opinion, they should be here in the room. But,
Well, yeah, it's
but I know.
Friday
Well,
daytime.
I will say the chief
volunteers.
was just in the town hall, so.
Yeah,
Melissa
I'm
had her
not sure they
hand
know.
up for a little while. Melissa, did you want to say something about it?
Yeah, sorry. What this Castle Booze, or I don't know how to pronounce it, that, facility study, is that the accurate number for fire, department number 1, station 13, 3.4 to 3.6? That says the cost range.
The number from that study,
Yeah.
it was in that, it was the number given in that year,
Oh, okay. So that's pretty
Like
old
13
then.
years ago.
Yeah, it was like
13
30.
years ago. And they were working with the 2.9, but I know when we looked at the plans, that there was discussion about, we could maybe knock this down lower and do a little bit less and still meet the needs, is what I
Mhm.
heard in the department. And so they're working with someone now to do that, so
We're
I'm
working with the
curious.
architect to try to figure that out, but I
Yeah.
don't know.
Right,
Okay, because there was another was there another number for Wellington Hill too, or no? Was that just number 1?
No,
I'm
so
trying-
the problem, Melissa, is Wellington Hill does not have even a basic plan yet.
Oh,
So-
okay, that's,
So they're not really in the same timing at all, and
I-
but neither one of them are ready to go with this bond, so.
yeah.
Okay.
I understand why they asked for it, but I just, again, knowing that this needs to go to a referendum, how does anyone in this room defend how we got to asking the townspeople for a bond? Because we don't even know what the number should be,
Right.
even in an estimated figure in 2023 numbers. So it just wouldn't, in my mind, wouldn't be a responsible ask of the townspeople.
So are you, Christina, did you say there is sort of a plan B thought about placeholder for Wellington Hill to catch up with the,
Well, no, so what they submitted was option A, together, 11.5 million, do both stations.
Mhm.
That was what we were told. But they also said, if that doesn't happen, then Wellington Hill said, in year 1, they want to replace their parking lot for $35,000.
Mhm.
In year 2, they want a survey of 25 Old Farms Road for $10,000.
Mhm,
In
right.
year 3, they want design and engineering for $100,000. And then in year 4, they want the bay floor repaired for $35,000.
I think that was year 3 as well.
Oh, yeah,
Year 4
that's
should be
year
a-
3.
Year 4 should be a blank. There should be nothing on year 4.
Nothing in year 4.
Year
That's,
Remember there was one
that's when
year-
the fire truck gets replaced
That was
for
year 5.
$850,000.
Year
No, year 5, year 4 were no projects to allow Fund 17
Oh,
to
right.
accumulate.
Right. That's, yeah, year 4, there was nothing.
I'm sorry, so what I'm looking at has none of those in here, right?
It's all the way down at the bottom. I
Okay,
put Plan B
I'm
at the
sorry.
bottom.
I keep looking up,
There
And
you go.
Top
it's on
or-
the screen if I scroll down to where it is.
yeah, I can't
but-
see that.
Yeah.
Sorry,
That's even smaller than that,
yeah.
for us in the room.
Oh, I see at the very bottom, okay.
I was
So,
looking at the
so
bottom.
I think what Erica is suggesting is that we move up the design and engineering to year 1 so that they can at least catch up to a point where they could potentially do this bonding at the same time. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying we need to talk about it.
Yeah.
So if we want to try, if our goal is to keep them in line, and our goal is to say to townspeople, yes, the right thing for us to do is invest in both fire departments now, then we have to get them in line, and,
So if we take out the 40K, it's a net gain of 60,000 in there.
yeah, and so we have to address how to get Wellington 1 up to speed, Wellington Hill up to speed, but at the same time, I struggle with, we've seen the conditions of, Wellington 1, where we're asking folks, to sleep knowing that they have 24-hour shifts, and we can't keep putting that off. But, the only way in my mind to keep these 2 projects together is to move the bond portion to year 2, and they work really hard unless they've got some funds in their back pocket that they want to use on their own outside of town funds, which I would highly recommend. I mean, they've been renting that house now for quite a while, and I don't know what income they have from it, or what income they have on their own, but they
At the very least, the survey needs to come first, so
Yeah.
they know where
all of
the
those
property
things.
is. Even before you start doing any design, you gotta know what you own.
So, okay, so they're not here, but you all are on the same efficiency committee with them, so, and submitted this together, so do you know the thinking of why they pushed it out to year 3?
No. That's what they had given us when we met jointly, was we're gonna try year 1 to do it together. And if it doesn't go, then they're gonna start year 3 of trying to, because they had the other projects of getting the bay floor, the parking lot. That if this doesn't go, just to put money into 24 Old Farms.
How about this, move the survey to year 1? And the engineering and design to year 2? That basically speeds it up by a whole year.
Does that get you both to at the same point though, or you could do both these projects at the same time? And we could go to like one referendum about both?
Closer, it's a whole year closer.
It's at
The
least
whole
on a
year from
track.
now.
It's,
Oh, yeah,
It's a
I
long-
mean, this is
It's a long
talking
time.
24,
Or do
25.
we put, I mean, we're talking about $10,000 and $100,000. It's not like we're talking about 100 and 100. Do we just do 110 in year 1? And they design, I mean, the idea then is that then they start work July 1 when you have funds available, if this passes. They, to begin their
Yeah.
work, to be able to stay on track. And then,
I think we do that, that's more, if there's a catch-up involved, that's more realistic to moving, together to a junction.
Mike, can I just add one fear with it, is that we're spending money now for Wellington 1 to get the engineering and stuff and so that we know what the cost is. If we're holding off another 2 years, we're gonna have to rebid it again, so that we know the prices. So we'll have to, that's my only hiccup, with how everything is right now, and the prices, I don't know
So with that, Alex, we're talking about going with a major school bond, right?
Yeah.
We know nobody's gonna
Correct.
start building this year.
Correct.
So there's some escalation costs for beginning building.
Right.
2 years from now, or a year from 2020,
Yeah.
at the earliest, summer of 2024. I would think that same kind of
Concept
would be possible to say, this is when the earliest is we would be able to break ground. Can you give us figures that works in that price escalation?
Right.
And I would think if in the school construction world it can be done, in this, it should be, you know, obviously there are estimates based on how things will go, but it would be the same kind of formulas, I would think, percentages that a school building project escalation is.
I'm not sure I'm following what you're
So
suggesting.
couldn't possibly break ground on a new school until summer 2024.
Mhm.
We started getting numbers in 22. So the cost estimates that we have are built with those escalations
Okay,
based on starting construction 2 years from now.
so the
And
numbers they're getting now should have
they're
that
looking at
too.
numbers for now. I would think they'd be able to escalate it to say, okay, you're not gonna start construction here, here's a built-in escalation.
Is there something to talk about as, you know, if the most pressing need at Wellington One is the 2 people who are on for, you know, 24/7 ambulance, you know, quarters and, you know, safety and laundry and all the things I've heard you say. Is there something that should be in the plan that addresses that, that's separate from 3.5 million build? You know what I mean? Is there,
So the hard part for us is without building something, there's no way to modify it to improve it in the station. There's no, without doing something on, adding onto that building, there's no way to address that. For us, there's just, it needs,
nothing to be, nothing in the building is at all?
I would say it's a
Flexible for
really
that.
nice garage.
It's a garage.
it's a garage,
It's a
there's no
front-end
way to
garage.
remodify the way that that building is to be able to keep a separate men's room and a separate female, you know, women's room. And we have one locker room that everybody shares with one shower. But it also stores our medical supplies. It's where we have to decontaminate all, the same room, we have to decontaminate all of our equipment.
But there's also many other things that go on with this, and
Yeah.
come down, and look at the plans, when we do training now, we have to shut off the heat in the winter, because the heaters are so loud in the base, we can't hear what's going on.
No, I've seen the plans for the whole thing, you know, which are a lot greater than addressing
You
the
know,
needs of the
storage
overnight
for medical
staff.
supplies and records,
Mhm.
it isn't just, let's put a couple beds somewhere and we're all set.
Right,
It's the whole function of a firehouse and not a garage that needs to be addressed.
Oh, Carrie's had her hand up for a while. Carrie, did you want to say something?
Yes, I understand that probably with Station 13, I remember seeing the plans, so this is probably already done with Station 13, but I know that when, just the other day, we were talking about the library, and there was a lot of sort of scattershot plans that wanted to be done, and we thought maybe having a facility study would be the best thing for the library first. Has such a thing been proposed in terms of Station 49 and maybe Station 13? I mean, I assume if you already have blueprints, you've gone past that point, but is this something that could help determine what needs to be done first? And
Well,
But
We used a previous study to get to this point, right?
There's been
Yeah.
3 studies done.
Yeah.
for
one
both
back-
stations, for 13 and 49?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a whole committee, the Emergency Services Efficiency Committee was set up to try to figure this out.
Okay, so we've already done all that stuff, and yet
Yeah.
there's still just the 11.5 million, but without the other steps in place.
well, I'd say, except the piece that's missing is they didn't own 25 yet. They didn't own the St. Jude's property when that study was done.
But I think she said we take the result, the study didn't say it needs to be replaced, right? I think so we were moving, until that happened, we're moving forward with the findings from that study, correct? and moving in that direction. And then in the meantime, and we still haven't completed the things that the study said, Wellington Hill bought property across the street and now would recommend putting in a new firehouse across the street. What becomes of the one they have remains to be seen.
I guess my question is, I feel like this $11 million ask is very unfinished, that there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of just things that have not been addressed nor answered. So I guess I just assumed there hadn't been previous studies is my question, but I guess there have been previous studies and yet it still feels very unfinished.
I don't know that there has been previous studies to coordinate the two,
No, just one.
just
No,
one.
The studies address both departments.
Right.
All three studies.
It was at least the most recent one was about what does the town need for emergency services?
That was what they called the Castle Blue study. And then prior to
you all
And
that,
what year was that?
2009.
Didn't you,
Then
did
there was
Kelsey
a
just
stu-
send that all to
There was a
you?
study before that one done by Field Service of in Killingly area that talked about both stations. It wasn't a study just for one, it was for emergency services for the town of Wellington. And prior to that, there was one done from a company out of New Hampshire that addressed the same issues. So it's been three.
Yeah, but I don't feel like there's been a comprehensive, like, as far as the efficiency committee, which just reconvened, right? And there's been quite a, like, years-long hiatus or months-long. But I don't know how long it had not been meeting.
2 years.
2 years and a quick meeting to sort of to grapple with the idea of jumping on the bond. We're kind of saying not ready to jump on the bond. I don't feel like those discussions are up to date with that, what I just articulated in capsule form.
And if I can, Carrie, I hear a little bit of your frustration, right? We talk about these studies and then we try to follow through with them. What is thrown in there is that Wellington Hill bought some land in anticipation of buying a firehouse, and our study didn't address, that wasn't one of the needs in there. So that's addition to the needs identified for fire services, right? Out of that study, it identified the need for some additional things in Wellington One, some additional repairs and things that needed to happen at Wellington Hill, but not a new build at both departments. But
Yeah.
both departments now asking us for a new build. So this, everything in the study is there, is being addressed, except Wellington Hill bought some land and now would like a new firehouse. So
let me ask
instead of a study saying you need a new firehouse, we have the department coming forth and asking, and we have to figure out how we put that in with what we still haven't done from the study.
Right.
So
Yeah.
in that case, I mean, from what I've gleaned from the school building committee, there's a number of questions of suitability of land, grading of land, water quality of land. Like there's a number of questions beyond just, we need a new facility, we have this space. Like I guess I'm just really trying to grapple with what I'm not doubting is an actual need. I'm not at all doubting it. It just feels extremely unfinished to me, is what I'm struggling to try and help bring to this table.
What feels unfinished to you?
It feels like we want to jump on this bond. We have this $11.5 million project, but there's not the information needed to help give the townspeople the accurate scope in order to vote yes or no on a bond.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
I think we
I
agree
struggle
with
with
that.
saying we need to keep the two departments together because we knew as a town and started investing as a town based on data that we paid for and received for emergency services, that with one of them, we needed to move in a direction and then we needed to start doing some work on the other, right? And so some of those
We
things.
have had a study that, and again, I understand in my own imperfect way that given the size of our town, we need stations located at various points. But that does not mean we need two separate fire departments, correct?
No,
Or
so
the study said, no, we actually do.
The whole other can.
That's the two separate departments is a whole other discussion. Let's say we don't need two separate, we need the facilities. The study didn't say we need two brand new facilities.
Okay,
The study said you need to address the needs at Wellington One. And that's where the priority went, and as far as a large project. And the town started investing in that in multi-stages. And they're at the end stage where they're getting the construction plans and now determining the final project. In the meantime, we have a department that said, but we bought land, we would like a new station.
okay,
Get identified by any other source other than the department's request. So we are now tasked with, and the fire department, everyone at the table can attest to, is a sticky situation.
It is a sticky
Because we
situation, but I don't,
support- We support the services.
and it, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but one has been more, you know, has been operating more as a sort of, you know, town entity, even though it's separate. Its own outfit is separate. I mean, I'm, you know, I don't know. I'm just sort of feeling very uncomfortable talking about a comprehensive approach to the firehouse buildings in town without Wellington Hill here. And I don't know that I understood that this meeting was gonna go into that this deeply.
Well, and that brings me back to, it's not this committee's job to figure out this.
That, yeah,
It's the efficiency committee's job, and what they brought to us is 11.5 million in year one.
I think we're in
Come on.
agreement that it doesn't make sense to jump on the bond or
You can't.
to presume
Right.
that
Right,
in year one.
right.
So-
So what do we do? What are our options are to either try to get Wellington Hill, like, move up that process, put the $110,000 in year one, but also put money aside if we're gonna move these guys along. Which I don't know what that amount is.
Right.
We're not even at that point, so it's hard to know.
He's saying he's a
I don't
couple
think
weeks
it-
from that number. He's saying in a couple of weeks, we'll have the number,
Roughly.
but and I've asked Alex point blank, where did this number come from?
Yeah, I don't, you know, I guess I don't see that a 10-year-old study with what's happened and the school project makes sense to take to the bank right now. I mean, in this plan, it just feels outdated,
But do we
or it
spend
doesn't
money
feel
on
like it's
another-
got the factors
Is
in.
another study gonna say because that department bought land, that the town needs a brand new facility? And the only way to know that is if we pay money for another study, and I'm not sure that's the wisest investment either.
I don't know that
We, the townspeople, are gonna have to decide that.
Yeah, I don't know that either is doing their research, excluding the idea of the other department, you know, continuing in full. I don't know that they're doing that. I don't know. I don't know that your presumptions at Wellington One for the new facility is saying we're serving the whole town in lieu of Wellington Hill. By, you know, by the study that's being done, or that was done for that facility is saying
So the.
this replaces both fire
It does
departments.
not-
I don't
it
think
does not-
anyone
it
is
does
saying
not
that.
get into that.
You did not say that.
It
So-
did not. Our addition
Right.
was solely to keep providing the services that we provide today and looking at for the next 40 years of town EOCs and, you know, in 40 years, are we gonna have 3 people on or 4 people on, depending on town growth or something like that? Of making sure that we had enough room for the next 50 years, not with the impression that Wellington Hill is still here, or we know that the station or a station will still be up here. And it takes into effect of what we have at the 143 River Road Station. We're not adding base space because we have it at the other station. Knowing over the next 30 years, if we have to add a piece of apparatus, like we added the ambulance, one stays at that station, one stays at the main station. It's not to add base space or try to overgrow. It's to meet the needs of what we have currently for the town and trying to look at the future.
So I'm saying,
And that has been discussed with Wellington Hill of, they're not, the discussions that we've had through the Emergency Services Commission and both the chiefs and presidents sitting down and meeting was things, if Wellington Hills project goes through, they're not gonna duplicate to an extent of what Wellington One has, and we're not gonna do the same for us.
Mhm.
We're not gonna go out and buy a 3,000 gallon tanker because there's one sitting here.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's the,
I'm just saying, as far as coordinating it, you guys haven't had that much time because there's been one meeting to coordinate the two. I understand the focus on, hey, there's this bond and is this a good time to talk about it? Yes, the answer is yes. But is it ready? No, I think that's the way I see it in simplified terms. I don't know how far out we can go in figuring out everything else. And I mean,
Okay,
That's
that's
just
just
how I'm
conversation of, again, we have a study. We started
mhm,
to implement some of the things in the study over a course of years, right? In putting, in investing in what it said was needed at both stations. But what it didn't say was that we needed a new station at 49. That's what it didn't say, and that's what's new to the conversation. No, the question is that still a need for the town? A firehouse here, yes. Some adjustments need to be made to that and some improvements need to be made to that. But now that study, we took that as our basis for planning, evolved because they bought property. And now it's evolved into not going to repair, but we're going to build new. That's a much larger volume project for the town to endure. And then I think there needs to be some discussion, but we're only charged with the projects on table.
right, but I don't, you know, it's difficult to make a decision to plunge all in with one and not the other.
Right,
I don't know.
and they themselves didn't present it that way,
Right,
but what they did present, we can't take, we can't do,
I can't do.
so,
So what do we do?
so.
so,
So does that mean we're right now at 0 for year one? Or does that mean we take some assumption, make some assumption? I mean, I don't want to talk about them all day.
yeah.
I'm tired. I've been talking about it for 15 years now. I am done talking about it. I just want to know the number and I want to know the plan and I don't want to make the plan for them. That's how I feel about it, but
I agree with you, because it gets into a sticky situation and everyone feels like someone is taking a side in a department, and I'm trying to take the side of, we spent money on a study. And we're not actually following the study, and here we are with us having to argue what's best for the townspeople.
Yeah.
But I think we all agree that $11.5 million bond this year. I think that happened.
I think we agree with that, and so maybe what we do for now, or unless we wanna, you know, invite both departments to, you know, address the fact that we're talking about nothing in year one.
I think we invite both departments to get their committee back together, come
Right.
up with another plan and present that to us. That's,
we'll be more than happy to do that.
okay, great.
As
And you have
in
dates to
terms
do
of
it.
year one,
Huh?
And you have days
Yeah,
to do it.
all the years.
All the
Yeah.
years.
because our next meeting is Wednesday.
Wednesday.
And by the way, next week is crazy because Board of Finance also launches. So in my own personal world, which should not affect this totally, but it's, you know, it's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday intensive meetings.
Yeah,
I'll
So-
send you a
and also
Monday,
the
Tuesday,
first,
Wednesday,
the
Thursday.
first after our
And
Our
I do
meeting
have other
is
things.
the building committee meeting,
So could I ask that it be Friday that we meet?
Friday.
Versus
a week
Next
from
Friday
today.
rather than Wednesday? Just
Sure,
'cause I
yeah.
know that Wednesday would be very difficult for me.
Yeah.
So what are
Gives you
we
more time.
doing Wednesday in terms of advancing CIP with everything we know?
Well, so
Can
our,
we talk about whether or not any of these projects can just get moved on? Year
Yeah.
one? If we're talking about year one, let's go down the list.
Okay.
I don't see anything, well, maybe one
Are
offhand, but
the
let's talk
people
about it.
online keeping up with this?
Does anyone keep up with CIP? We are keeping up with this.
I was kind of thinking the committee members, but is anyone raising their hand?
So
Yeah, I understand.
Do you guys want it from the efficiency committee or from the two fire departments?
I'll be happy to hear from whoever wants to speak to us in the fire department.
it.
yeah,
At this point.
yeah, but the efficiency committee would, in my mind, carry more weight.
Perfect,
Same here.
thank you.
Alex, keep in mind the Friday meetings are typically in the afternoon.
I know.
What's that?
The Friday meetings are typically in the
We'll
afternoon,
make it work.
which may be difficult for those that work
People
during
with
the
day
day.
jobs, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, we might. I don't know if we need to adjust meetings given that, if we, or meets, adjust the time frame given that.
Well, so our timeframe, and we just need to come up with a plan to present to the selectmen by the second week in February.
Mhm.
So, typically what we do is we work on year one, because that's the one that matters in the operating budget the most. And then we talk about the out years. In this case, I think we're talking about these things, and we'll be able to do it all at once we have all these numbers.
Can I,
I know, but I'm also thinking about you not being here.
Oh, yeah, that last week, but then, yeah, I'm not gonna be here
After the 9th.
after the 9th. I'm
So-
back the 20th.
So that's week after next,
Yeah.
that we need to.
Troy is on the call, and I'm looking at how we can get all of this done, and I just don't see,
Okay.
once again, this year, I don't see how we can say yes to everything and not have a significant increase from a tax base. And that is how we got to this with all of our facilities. At some point, we have to stop saying no and pushing things off. But we're charged with some sort of balance. So I'm looking specifically at, I'm not calling it anymore, the Village Hill Drainage Project, $50,000. So Troy, can you weigh in on your thoughts? We've put money aside in this year out of LoCIP, and we haven't done anything yet, and we are putting money aside next year. We are planning to, in a couple of weeks, apply for a grant for that project. And we're anticipating the total cost to be somewhere around $500,000. So there's a new grant through DOT that we have to go through CROG to get. They will not partially fund. So it'll be fully or nothing over $15 million over 3 years. And so our project will be upwards of $500,000.
What line is that on? Because we
There
don't,
aren't numbers, so I can
Okay.
tell you, it's in the public works section.
okay,
So
yeah, I know, we
Go
used to have
down
this sort
under
of
the-
line that we,
right
did.
where your finger is,
Yeah,
go down just a couple in there. And it says Village Hill Drainage. Keep going.
okay, yeah, sorry.
And so it's $50,000. It would free up, in my mind, if we push it out, some lot sit money to potentially move the overhead doors off of the budget and onto LoCIP. If we didn't utilize that money and we held off on, what we hadn't done this year as well. So I'd like Troy's input on that, because if we put it off, then we put off yet again, starting it for another year. This is a project that we know has been on the books for, more than 30 years now, and we're working really hard to get it funded through some grant funds, getting those coming back to Wellington.
Is there money in this year's budget to at least get started?
Yes, but it won't go as far as we had hoped, because the cost of things have gone up, so we haven't done anything, so we wrapped the entire thing now into this grant. Hoping that the entire project could get funded, so I'm thinking if we didn't use the money from this year, and we won't know until April 28th. I think is that the deadline, Troy? I don't know if he's still there. He was on. He's not, see, I'm talking to him like he's not on anymore. April 28th, I think is the, forgive me, because they moved the deadlines when they will make their decisions. And so it'll be after budgets, just before the
Do
budget.
we used to
goes, that
get
we'll know.
something like 72,000 on LoCIP? From LoCIP?
About 5,700, so right around that.
57,000.
57,000, but this is where we need Donna's tables, right? We need to know how much was already accounted for and whether or not that's enough money that we can do the 7190, the garage doors using those funds instead of the drainage. And I'd like to push that off a year, because I feel really good about our project. But it's competitive. And we're going to be competing, we have to get out of Prague first, and then we'll be competing statewide.
Mhm.
And this is a rural roads grant.
Okay,
So only rural towns, but there's still a significant number of rural towns in Connecticut that will qualify. But if we get this entire project done, that will take a couple of years off this plan and money, at least from this year, that we didn't use, so it would free that up
right.
as well
So I'm gonna put $100,000
in year two.
well, yeah, year 2 under lot SIP, right?
Mhm.
Which is a new funding source on our chart.
No,
Everyone.
LoSiP.
Well, oh,
Yeah.
but,
O2 is LoSiP.
right, but didn't you say that
No,
it
this
would
is
be paid?
LoSiP.
Oh, okay. But what is gonna be paid for by lot SIP?
We're hoping that the entire, $500,000
Mhm.
for the entire project, which would include the paving, so
Okay.
the drainage from just past Pinecrest to the bridge on Village Hill.
Okay,
And that's 16 new catch basins. The drainage work associated with that, and then paving that portion.
So if you put in year 2, 500,000 for lots of,
Done lots of
what's the grant source called?
Trip.
trip.
Trip, oh, so they're new one.
Okay,
Thank
so
you. Right under trip.
trip. But 100,000 or 500,000?
Now, if we get it.
Well, if we get the
500.
whole thing, it's 500,000.
500.
And we still
And
need,
then,
we still
and so-
need 500 for the project to go forward anyways, even if we have to pay for it.
Correct.
right,
And then that's in year 2?
We'll know in year.
I'm
2.
hoping in March, at the end of April, I'll be able to come and tell you that it's fully funded by a grant, and it's not gonna come off of any of our other sources. So, because that's not money that's coming to the town, right? LoSiP money we get as a town, this is, we have to go out and apply for this separate grant, and I'm really hoping that I can tell you.
so Village Hill drainage, that was only $100,000. We'd be getting 500. So what else
Yeah.
is covered by that? Is it the Liska and Schofield?
No,
No,
that
it's
500,000
going
is.
further up Village Hill.
Just
No,
for
it's
that.
not farther up. It includes the paving. We started trying to break it out. Troy came to us and we started talking about how can we start to chip away to make some progress on this? And that was Public Works doing some catch basins. Remember, the first year they didn't get to things because of the rain we had all summer. And then this year they just haven't had an opportunity to start yet. And this grant came about, and the cost of the pipe, like everything else, is extraordinary, so we weren't gonna be able to go as far in this year. And then when the grant came about in maybe November, we said, we have a really good shot at this, and then they changed the parameters that made it look even better for our project. So we're working on making that grant as competitive as possible.
Okay,
So
so,
that grant trip
Would
Is-
complete this project that's been on the
completes-
books for 30 years.
500,000 for Village Hill drainage and paving?
It would be the paving of it too, which needed to be done. We just had only started with the drainage.
Go, girl.
all right, so I just
Yeah.
changed here's what I did.
Now we need to get it.
Yeah.
I
Maybe it's
changed
cheerleader.
the name of it to Village Hill Road Drainage and Paving for $500,000. Moved it all to year 2 with TRIP as the fund source.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay,
Awesome.
and that takes that out, and then you're talking about the 72,000
Yeah.
for
I'm thinking take that
doors
out of
being,
930 and make it LoSiP.
making it LoSiP.
Right, the overhead doors. Listen, yeah.
What is
For
it?
that full amount, you're gonna say it for LoSiP?
Okay,
Okay,
I think if we're gonna do them, we need to do all of them. At that whole amount from LoSiP.
no,
Now,
but I didn't
I don't
know if
know.
they would, if that's what that money is, is that what the funding is? I mean, the funding. would-
LoSiP allows you to roll some of the money over. They don't like you putting lots of cash, but they let you carry some over. So if they give you 57,000 one year and you only spent 50, you get 7 to carry over to the next year. So
Yeah,
when we see Donna's sheet, we'll know.
yeah,
what the
Donna
balance
might say,
Okay.
oh, there's already 80,000 in there and you're getting
Okay.
40
Thanks.
this year.
Right.
So then we have 100.
Sorry, I'm having trouble.
Or she may say,
Yeah.
you're only gonna 57, you don't have enough, find another source.
Okay,
But
Right.
let's try this.
just following,
Yeah,
And then
okay.
the street sweeper.
yeah,
but that's in year 1. the
It's in year
doors.
1, yep.
Yeah,
And I'm
okay,
saying leave them in year 1, the street sweeper.
okay,
And remember, this was a used street sweeper. This has us paying for it in full.
mhm.
Do we want to lease this? Which I don't love the idea of, but
and that's capital reserve.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's coming out of reserve. If we lease it, then it's, you know, what do you
Another
think?
debt payment we're carrying.
Right, and it's probably in the $15,000 range per year, which will come off of which would increase his operating budget by that much, whatever that lease payment is.
Correct.
So isn't his operating budget already high?
No, it's still fall into capital. The
No, it
lease
doesn't.
payments still come directly out of it.
Public Works lease payments come out of the Public Works line item.
That's a,
Directly
yeah.
out of their
Yeah, and
budget.
he's already got the 800,000
I just
roads
want us to think
idea.
about, you know, even if we lease it, yeah, the lease payments come up, they don't come out of,
Honestly,
reserve
lease
fund.
payments make me feel like it goes into a hidden category as far as actual spending. I mean,
they're in
It's hard to
they're in the
get here.
selectmen's budget.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
We carry them all.
Well, what- what
where
do
we,
you say
where
about
we
it?
look at it is literally right here, like, this is the only place where anybody ever sees the lease payments
Right.
and what they are. And we have quite a few now.
Yeah,
I see it in my cringe every time I see that.
And, you know,
I know.
I think it makes sense to lease something that's multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars,
Okay.
but we also have to pay interest, and we have to
Mhm.
pay the closing costs and all that stuff, and
I know I'd like to get away from them. I wondered what everyone else's opinion was.
For this one, I'd like to get away from, but it just goes back to Donna's spreadsheet of what's the balance in the capital reserve.
yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Maybe-
which if that's the place that we're looking for the 200,000 for the initial school.
Yeah. What I'll do is I'll send Donna a very specific list of questions with, you know, saying, we think capital reserve, we need 100,000 for the sweeper, and we need 200,000 for the school building committee. And I think that's the only thing that we had on there. Oh no, I put the reval 32,000
Yeah, we
on there
need to
too.
rebound.
And then just have her, instead of, you know, if she doesn't have a lot of time, at least she could go, okay, yeah, you're good. Versus, you know, her spending hours and hours trying to like do a full analysis for us, like,
Yeah,
we just need to know that we
Okay.
have, that we can use that fund source in our sheet.
Can you
So,
show me the yellow highlighted number at the bottom? Are we close to our target?
Yeah, so our local spending target is 780 and we're at 927.
We didn't change anything. That's
No, but
well, we do, if
Well,
we take those.
if we move the school building committee into off budget, we're fine.
For what source?
Would
That's
the
where
would the
maybe the
overhead
reserves
doors go to other column as opposed to local funds?
And we don't have a source yet for this plumbing at the school.
Weren't you gonna say something about the overhead doors being used as LOSIP too?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Or
oh
no?
yeah. Brought down by
The
71.
71,950?
Yeah, let me just check
71,
my,
950.
I have not checked my
Yeah.
spreadsheet, so,
Okay.
I almost have to walk up there to see what you're doing, because I'm like,
That's why I just asked you to
It's-
read the numbers.
no.
yeah, okay, so, yeah, it carried that over, so shouldn't be doing that.
So Melissa, you can see it better, you tell us.
And 25, and 25 should not be on there. Okay. I got that down. Let me just see, so M50, M44, M26. That's 930, 930. Okay, that one's good. And then this one is the bond, that's good. Public Works, lease payments. That's all them. Yeah, I think this is right. So we're
Well,
at
should we-
855 as a local spending.
So a little under 100,000, but we haven't put a source to the schools yet.
No, and I did move the school over to capital reserve, so,
And did you take the 40 out for the firehouses?
no.
But that's off budget.
Okay, because
Oh,
of
no,
the
sorry.
ban. It's already off budget.
Yeah, yeah, it was already in that.
Okay.
Where is it?
There's not much in the,
Oh, actually, no, I didn't take it off.
and can we address I'm waiting for numbers, and we put out some feelers for assessment for the library, as we discussed in length on Wednesday.
Mhm.
Trying to get some numbers there.
Mhm. The $30,000.
Yeah. I should have find somebody in.
For what,
current
what was
budget.
that? What was that for the,
Well, what if we ask ARPA to fund that?
are you talking about the study?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we talked about it in both places.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And then that would move it off.
I think so.
Do you want to do the facility study only for the library, or do you want to include the other town buildings?
Well, so that would include this building?
Yeah, what I'm planning to ask for is all of the facilities, so, but,
Center school?
No.
if there's a need for that, yeah. Yeah,
Well,
right, I mean, we know with
Yeah,
with
we
main
won't know yet.
project,
Yeah.
that it's on the, what do we do with it list,
Mhm.
so, yes. So,
So we could ask ARPA, you know, this committee could vote to ask the ARPA commission to fund anything, anything. The facility studies for, the library, but also the town one. They still have $200,000, so. The other thing I was thinking is the library asked for carpeting in year 2. Oh, no, it wasn't year 2.
Is the library gutters on, is that local spending or is that,
That's ARPA.
okay, but it's
Yeah.
listed as ARPA, okay, so it's not in our amount then.
Flooring shouldn't come in till year 3.
yeah, I think Karen and I made it pretty clear they, some, that it's more than just that common room, it's the whole downstairs.
Mhm,
And until they address the outside where the
Yeah.
water's coming in issue, I
mhm.
think they're waiting to do the floor, so it seems like an easy pickoff and just put an ARPA, but I can see why
Yeah,
we'd hesitate to fund it now.
well, okay, so facility assessment, we put a placeholder in for the library, but we did not put
Remember,
a number or
right,
a year, but I think it should be year 1. And I think it should be ARPA, but, how much?
But what is that facility study for municipal buildings for 30,000
Yeah.
do we wrap it up in the entire,
altogether?
right, which I would have before, and now we're talking about them specifically, so we can give them some information and.
Yeah, I think that's what you should do. Like, take
And ask
this
ARPA
up
to
and-
fund it.
Yeah, and you just increase it to 40 maybe as a starting place.
Yeah, and
it's
on top of
50.
asking, you know, trying to get some quotes from some businesses. One of the other places we reached out to is Mansfield just did one on all of their buildings. I found their RFP, I haven't found the cost. And so we reached out to them, but they're closed on Friday, so they didn't answer back. yet.
So what would be in that facilities? Could you just tick it off again, just so I
Sure, so it would
understand?
be, you know, a needs assessment and structural assessment. Typed up in a nutshell, I have.
No, but I
that.
mean, which buildings?
Oh, senior center, library, town hall,
Public
center
Works,
school, public
Old
works.
Town Hall,
No,
Scout Hall.
no, not Old Town Hall. We have.
We already
we
have
have-
something
we already
in
have
a study,
operation
yeah.
that we're,
And potentially health school. Right, it's dependent on the
Mhm.
project.
What about bus stop?
so you said center before, but you're talking about both schools potentially.
Potentially.
We can include the firehouses in there. Basically, they come to the
Listen,
table as well
I
for-
didn't have them in my plan, and only because we have a 2009 study that we still haven't implemented.
But
I mean,
that- that-
but what's a new city gonna tell us the old one isn't? That there's more wrong with our buildings? I mean, right? I mean, we can throw it in there, Stuart. I'm not opposed to it, but I hadn't planned on another study for the
Yeah,
fire
the
department.
09 study didn't address basically maintenance and issues of when you need a new roof, do you need a furnace, you know, electrical, so whatever, which is, I think is what you're looking at for these other buildings. Does the masonry need repointing on the outside? The 2009 study did nothing about that.
Well, let's wait and see what the fire departments come back, because I'm not gonna invest money if we're going to invest in a brand new firehouse. And a brand new addition. What's the point of the study on this facility if we're moving forward in that direction? So we can,
Yeah,
we absolutely could.
Because
But it doesn't make sense to me to invest money in it now if we're moving forward with them.
Because in the past, you've invested money at the South Wellington station, they got a new roof, the front of the building was falling off, they put that back on, and then they put insulation all around the outside of the building for over $100,000. You know, at the Station 13, it's got a new roof on it. You know, that's gonna come up at some point, but there's, you know, issues with that building as well. But you are right, Eric, about Wellington Hills, they're gonna be leaving that within 2-3 years. You know, you might not include that one.
And that Castle Bowl study included the senior center and made multiple recommendations.
It did.
How much extra is it to add multiple more buildings? Is it a significant amount more
I
or?
don't have the answer to that yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it depends on
Yes,
the size of the building. and-
right,
It's how many hours are they gonna spend doing
And
it
how
per
new is the
building?
building.
right.
So what do
Can I
you
ask a
have in
question
there?
regarding the Hearst tools for the extrication equipment?
Mhm.
Would there be money in ARPA for that, to take it off of?
Not currently.
I just wondering if that's a funding source possibility for it.
If we don't fund any of the library things and we get some more money back and we don't fund anything, it's before us now.
I didn't know I had been following along, so that's why.
We
I
have
just
more projects than money at ARPA
Okay.
currently.
Yeah,
asked. I just know that it had been asked here before, why we didn't ask for it.
But if we replace the library request with an assessment to follow to put into our capital plan,
mhm.
maybe that's a good use of the ARPA so that we can then plan for every facility. And I have no doubt it's gonna make that go.
Yeah.
So,
So I put in 40,000 for a facility study, and I put it as a off budget. ARPA,
the thing,
ARPA. Does somebody want to make a motion to make a recommendation to the ARPA commission to fund a facility study? And then at least,
I'll make a recommendation to fund, however you just said it,
to fund.
facility study for 40,000 for the
community
municipal building.
That includes the town office building and the library at a minimum.
Yes, senior center, library, public works, town hall, center school and hall school if possible. Is that right?
I would leave it open because we don't
know.
know, but yeah,
so senior center, library, town office building, public works at a minimum. Is
Yeah.
that what you're saying?
yeah.
She said
All
town
all
office
depends how
building
far the
and-
money goes. That's
Yeah, it
why I think
depends.
So we'll
detailing,
say minimum town office building and library.
Yeah, town office building and library are the ones
big
with the
ones.
most question marks and issues.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so I'll bring that to the ARPA and just let them know that CIP would really like them to fund that. Okay, we're $5,000 off,
That's it?
yes.
That's impressive.
And,
So,
and we did not talk about this open space fund, the request
Oh,
for
that's right.
30,000. We could lower that to 25 and be dead on.
I'd say leave it 30.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, if we're 5 off.
I'd like to give you a little historical perspective on that. Go back 10, even 20 years. Near as I know, every request that's been asked for has been funded. Typically, it came out of the reserve fund because we weren't putting money in the Conservation Commission's fund, we were leaving it in the capital reserve. The reason for doing that was to save that money. But if something else came up that you needed that money for, which didn't happen often, but say you had a big emergency and had to buy something right away, if you parked that 30,000 over in the Conservation Commission's fund, you can't touch it. If it's in the general reserve, it can be authorized at town meeting, and the mechanism to get the money is still the same. Of the, typically Board of Finance asks the selectmen to call a town meeting, you have a town meeting, and you vote to, well, yes, we approve this money to go purchase whatever piece of property they're looking for. If you put that money in the Conservation Commission's fund only, that's all it can be used for. If you kept it in your so-called general savings, then you can use it for something else if something more important comes up. But every request they've had, as long as I've been around, has been approved. Goes to town meeting, the money's there, and but if you tie that money up, then it's stuck there.
My understanding is this is about them becoming more facile in jumping in and doing some of the survey work and some of the initial work that an
I believe they
interested
have I
seller.
believe they have a balance of, I think, $57,000 they mentioned, which the way they did it the last time is they have the money to do the survey and the valuation of the thing, of the property, to then approach it. They have money in their fund to do that now. And to get the rest of the money, so-called principal to buy the whole property, it's still the same mechanism, and it's the same time period to get that money.
I heard it was more stuff so that they had money to act quickly before they lost a piece of property.
But,
That's-
but,
I
but
mean,
it's not- it's not-
I hear you, but they're saying to be able to say, yes,
got
we've
this much
got
money.
this much money.
Yeah,
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, to Stuart's point, even if they had the money available, they still have to go through the process to access it.
yeah, you're
Right.
So
right.
it's the same kind of time frame.
Mhm,
Am I wrong in that? So the,
You're right.
while I wanna say, yes, let's do this, so they have it available specifically for that choice. Historically, it has been approved and the money is there if something else was needed before they needed it. But the time frame in which they would be able to access it, I think is the same thing.
Okay, I hear that. I guess what what I think is the conservation team that comes before us and that has come to CIP over the years, to me is eminently trustworthy on 2 points. They're not asking for more than they think is reasonable, and that's a fairly low number. And that I think that they're saying we need something kind of behind our word when we're talking to local abutters, and they have lost out in the past on abutters to.
I believe
Ruby
the
Fenton,
project
Fenton
they've
Ruby.
approached the town with have been approved. We have not. the
Right.
I'm not
conservation-
saying that it
The
hasn't.
last one they talked about, oh, we didn't even talk to them because their price was too high. That was, never even got approached to the town for that.
Well, because it was moving quickly, Stuart.
Mhm.
By the time they needed to be able to give a response, they couldn't say, yes, we have $70,000,
Yeah,
or $150,000. Yes, we can commit to that, we can.
But it wouldn't
say
be
that.
any different if they had it in their own fund. They still have to call the town meeting, get
But they could
approval.
say,
we have this
money.
much and we're behind you. We're behind this. So given that, yeah,
Carrie's
Oh,
got
Carrie.
her hand up.
Hi, I don't know if any of you guys are like adept enough in this, but a difference of $5,000, like broad brush strokes, what does that break down per taxpayer?
Oh,
So,
$2, right? Probably, I don't, yeah.
I mean, and I'm not playing fast and loose with people's money. Like that's not at all what I'm saying. I'm just saying that if we're talking about a $5,000 difference in particularly, we're looking at an organization that had a clear reason for their ask in the grant, that it would help them make them be more mobile. They could, pivot a little bit better. If we're talking about $2 per taxpayer, is it maybe better than not the agony of going to a town vote like Stuart's talking about. It just maybe it's negligible.
Yeah,
But I'm
so-
comfortable leaving it where it is right now and then having a more robust conversation with Donna and looking at the source tables and the funds and where they sit to see if we need to do some other work and then determine if we need to manipulate down
Mhm.
to that number. And at the same time, I'm gonna tell you, this has to come to the Board of Selectmen. We're gonna make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen and they could make adjustments because these numbers are gonna fit into that budget. And so
Right.
while it may seem like not much, 5,000 could have an impact on the selectmen's budget overall. And so just want to keep
Yeah.
all of that in mind. But I think at first work on year one, $5,000
Yeah.
over our
Yeah, no, I
goal.
think we're.
It's
we're
pretty
in
good.
shape. The other thing I would say about this is it was 0 before and they're asking for 30. Maybe we ramp it up over a couple of years, like we do with things, just so it's not like so drastic in year one. Although in years past, they've asked for $100,000.
Yeah,
Yeah. And we've broken it out over
Yeah,
5 years, so.
Yeah, so I mean, I think they'd be happy with anything and to see that, I think it would be good for us to have a plan of putting some money
Yeah.
into this.
How high do you let that fund build up?
I mean, some of the parcels that they need to buy are hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I just feel like because they've been so, they've been nickel and dime before. I mean, I guess I'm not in the mindset to nickel and dime them, given how patient they've been, because they've had lines drawn through these sort of very conservative choices,
If we heard nothing.
requests in the past.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah.
If we
thank
heard
you.
nothing out of the warehouse conversation, it was where, at least the townspeople who came out and made themselves heard,
This is it.
want to see, of Wellington, and this fits into that 100%.
That's why I'm arguing over the $2.
Yeah, right, that's it, right. So I think that's one thing that the folks united around, what kind of business they don't want to see in Wellington and how they want to see some land preserved.
Mhm.
So, our plan is built on that. It just makes it very difficult to fund all the things we want.
As far as agenda for Wednesday, given that the efficiency committee, might need till Friday, needs till Friday. I think kind of seeing this and hearing from Donna and kind of doing that.
Mhm. That'd be good.
Yeah.
And I won't be here. So, I don't know.
Wednesday is the first, right?
Yeah. We could.
Do we wanna
could skip
Wednesday? Because then we will have real,
Yeah.
solid, well, the first 3 years of this plan is not gonna change depending on the outcome of the school building committee Wednesday. The first
Right.
3 years are identical
Right.
across all
But
four.
it'll give us a
options.
little more time to get numbers from Donna. A little bit more time for the efficiency committee to do their thing.
And we still have funding sources to identify for the out years.
Yes, lots,
Lots.
yeah. So I think we should cancel next Wednesday's meeting, but come in.
Ready to stay
On
focused.
Friday. Is everybody okay with that? Do we need a motion to do that? No. No. All right, we're gonna do that. Is that good with everybody?
That's good.
Okay,
That's good.
Me.
Consolation to everyone.
okay.
I'll make them, was there anything else on our agenda?
No, I mean, unless
No.
we wanted, I know there's a few people online, if you wanted to hear from these people.
It's not, it's not on the agenda,
No,
the special.
yeah, okay.
All
right.
You have to stop sharing.
Oh, I have to stop my share. I can't see.
I think I can. Oh, look at that. Good enough. All right. I'll make a motion to adjourn 2:15.
Second that.
Aye.
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 Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.